But hello, welcome, welcome. Oh, yes, this game just released, I believe, yesterday, the 23rd. No, 2 days ago, the 23rd. And I'm so excited to finally play it. We did play the demo here on the channel. Please let me know if the music or the ambient effects are too loud or not loud enough, and I will change that. We played the demo when the demo came out, and I'm ready to play the whole thing. I'm super excited. I'm going to try and remember all of the options that I picked in the demo because I want to be a Glasswalker Theurge like it let me do in the demo. And I think there was, and when I played the demo, it was decided that I should do a Harano run, meaning a sad werewolf run. And I think I missed a couple of Harano options because I wasn't paying attention. I was just too excited to play. So yeah, I'm going to try and make sure I get all of the Harano options. But I'm Huddy, hi. I'm a World of Darkness community ambassador, and I've been doing a lot of the streaming over here, and I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Yay, new game. I don't remember what name we gave her, though. I know there were options for names, and I don't remember what they were. Not her name, but her deed name. Or her werewolf name, her Garu name. Yes. I am Samira Rahmani, a Garu of Afghanistan, sworn to fight alongside my fellow werewolves to protect Gaia and her inhabitants from the worm. Rage drove every step as I tore my enemies to pieces over and over again. But the humans have taken too much, and anger battles despair as I wonder, are they even worth fighting for? In this game, the choices you make will affect who you were, who you are, how you fight, and who you will become. So Samira Rahmani, it is time to choose what is your story. So excited. Hello, welcome in. Yes. Physical skills, right. All right. Okay. So, yes. So we picked stealth before because I thought it's funny as someone who is currently running werewolf that stealth is a hard skill for werewolves to do because rage is such an ever-present issue. I've had so many of my players roll brutal outcomes by whoopsie-doopsie, and it just ruins everything. It actually ruined our last session, like almost, not ruined is the wrong word, but I had no plan for what to do after that. So we had to stop. So I could figure it out for later. The name was something about a moon of a faraway planet. Thank you, Jerry. You're the best. You remember so much good stuff. Learning to move silently and becoming nearly invisible in the Hindu Kush Mountains has enabled you to evade enemies and shadow your prey. Yes. Yeah, right. And I wanted to pick Animal Ken as well, because animals in general are afraid of Garu, right, as it says here, because, you know, you're a predator, but I thought that would also be fun. Have Animal Ken. I'm remembering. It's all coming back to me. Don't worry about it. I don't have the brain capacity of Swiss cheese. A friend to local wildlife in your youth, you learned how to manage creatures of all sorts, predict their behaviors, and identify markings. And the mental skill. Right, we wanted to do technology, right? Yes. Because we wanted to do Glasswalker Theurge, so we're going to pick technology as well. That's fun. A computer and electrical systems have an order to them, something that attracts both you and the Weaver spirits that occasionally inhabit them. I'm a big fan of the Weaver spirits. I love the idea of the Weaver over the worm, just because, you know, it's like this really cool fine line that you get to walk. Rage is a double-edged sword. Low rage allows you to make wise decisions, but your caution may cause you to falter when action is needed. High rage can enable you to fight against the evil that consumes your world, but it can also overwhelm, threatening to destroy the humanity within. We went high, right? Yes. Yes, we did. Fuck the consequences, let's fight. Perfect. I am the first to enter the fight and the first to start one. Love that for us. I think high rage and high depression. Yep, we went high depression as well. The best of both worlds. Oh, God. But this never-ending war has become too much, and I can feel myself slowly giving in. Yes. Yes. For your choices, check out your character sheet and journal. Yeah, I totally know where that button is. Super know where that button is. I think it's just the little person button. Right, and this is where something bad happens to our brother. Run, whispered the moon. I prepared to fight, because I don't listen to what the moon has to say. I was tense, on guard, and ready to fight, but the bone-white snow and the stark trees that surrounded us were bereft of life. Katsim ran by my side, my hand gripping his thin arm as we raced alongside the border of Belarus and Poland, searching desperately for a way through the barbed wire fencing that pitilessly barred our way. The cutting, raging snow blinded our eyes in the freak storm, a series of bad luck in the never-ending tragedy that had begun months prior when the Taliban had overtaken my country once more. Hurry. I felt a clawing of panic within me. The guards were no match for a werewolf, but Katsim, my brother, was only a human and a child at that, and the guards would not hesitate to strike him down. High rage. I wanted to destroy them all before they had the chance. Tendrils of red began to suffuse the corners of my vision when I felt a small hand grabbing mine. The fury instantly abated as I took a deep breath, squeezing Katsim's hand reassuringly. "It's all right," I promised, my voice carried away on the howling wind as he smiled, pretending to believe it. This border was meant to be our last hope, our promised entry to the EU after the long, treacherous journey from Afghanistan. Instead, hope had turned to horror as we found scores of gaunt refugees crowded together in an undulating sea of desperation that pushed fruitlessly against the border. Families cramped and huddled around fireplaces within ragged tents, if they were lucky. We were one of the lucky ones. But even a tent would not stop the freezing grasp of the coming winter that loomed like the mountains of my homeland over us all. The violence of Polish guards and a razor-sharp barbed wire fencing were stopping us from getting in, while Belarusian soldiers were preventing us from getting out. We were trapped like a mahi caught in a net as we gasped for air and freedom. And so we had traveled far from the camp, hoping, praying to Gaia to help us find a way through in the praying to Gaia to help us find a way through in the deathly stillness of the night. You must escape. Where? There was no answer. As far as I looked, the barbed wire stretched ever forth, a delicate ornamentation that sliced through the forest. I'm doing terrible reading today. It's the effects are starting to mess with me a little bit. I'm gonna turn them down. There we go. I hate that. All right, I lost my train of thought. Fresh snow draped over the smooth paths on either side, concealing the graves of the trees that the guards had torn down to make way for his silver ribbon of pain. My eyes frantically roamed the fencings as we ran. Over there! The barbed wire lay in shadows, but I could nearly make out something in its midst. I ran to inspect it. Oh, that little background noise of ta-da-ta-ta-ta-ta is really messing with me. It really messes with me. I remember this now from the demo. I'm gonna turn that down a little bit. Good lord. I immediately ran over to inspect it, eager to find a way through. As I approached, the shadows revealed an object caught within the wire's claws. Ooh, the corpse of a rabbit. The rabbit's dark eyes, widened permanently in shock, gazed up at me. In another time, I would have buried it, but now all I could see was the hole in the fence next to it. This was our chance to escape. Too late, I heard the crunching of footsteps in the snow. I looked up, startled to see a guard approaching as our eyes met. Before he could react, I was racing forward as I shoved him into the barbed wire fencing. He struggled to break free, but I grabbed his fallen rifle, smashing it over his head repeatedly until he lay still, blood flowing in rivulets as it dripped upon the fence. Grabbing his body, I dragged it over into the woods, a shocked Katsim silently helping me shovel snow over it before we took off running once more. Glints of the barbed wire shone at the corners of my eyes as we ran onwards. In turn, the gleam of a flashlight, the eyes of a guard, the edge of a gun. The hunters seeking the child at my side as their prey as we ran faster and faster, searching frantically for any way through. Another burst of light, one I recognized with relief as that of Luna's as she shone gaily from behind the clouds, revealing at last a small gap beneath the sliver that barred our way. Snow crowded greedily at the torn edges of the fencing, but it would be a matter of moments to clear it. Moments we did not have. Give me more Harano. For the moonlight also shone upon the hunter, which I had feared. A Belarusian border guard headed our way. Flickers of light and smoke momentarily illuminated harsh features above a smoldering cigarette as he paused by the fence before turning about face to scan the other way. Use my stealth, sneak past him. I led Katsim through the shadows, ducking and weaving until we reached the edge of the border. The guard flicked his cigarette onto the ground, the snow instantly extinguishing it with a greedy hiss. He turned around and began pacing the other way as we breathlessly watched him fade out of sight. Motioning to Katsim silently, I cleared the snow as he scurried beneath the fence, like a hare fleeing the snow leopards that snapped at their heels. As he wriggled through, Kasim's coat caught in the fence's razor-sharp clutches. I shoved him forward, following closely behind as we at last made it to safety in Poland. A piece of his torn coat clenched within the barbed wire's silver hands, our final sacrifice to the border. We had only made it a few hurried steps into Poland when an ancient forest loomed abruptly before us, menacing in its suddenness. The thick line of trees melded together as one against the blackness of night and the white snow that violently battered at this vanguard of the woods, a frozen wave of a dark sea. Right, we have family in Poland, so I heard about this forest as a child. When I was a child in Afghanistan, my tribe of Garu, our sept, had mentioned the forest and another group of Garu that resided within, and I can't pronounce this word correctly, Pusha Bioviaska, they called it, Bioviaska Forest. Thousands of tiny wooden arms above reached plaintively away from their trunks towards the border, as if seeking to reunite with their brethren on the other side. Or perhaps seeking their kin that had long stood beside them, now ruthlessly wiped away for a frozen valley and its silver river. A river I wished to put far behind me as I rushed forward into the embrace of the trees as the forest swallowed us whole. What was this feeling? Longing? Regret? I could not put my finger on the emotion, but it grew stronger with every step. Let's slow down. As I slowed, Kasim looked at me, concerned. Samira, what is it? He asked. The feeling seemed familiar, and at last I recognized it. A yearning. But for what? Will Aunt Kaja come get us? Kasim whispered, the sound making me start in the oppressive hushed silence of the dark forest. Yes, once we're out of the woods, we can find a phone and call her, I whispered back as he looked relieved. Warsaw isn't very far, so we might even see her by tomorrow. You'll enjoy Warsaw. You'll like the city, I promised. It's a lot different from our home. But when I studied there, I found all of the best spots, and we can enroll you in a school, an actual school. Kasim seemed less enthused at this as I nudged him. A school where you can play football. His eyes lit up as he grinned up at me. Stop right there. I remember this. A beam of a torch blazed through the forest, illuminating Kasim and I frozen against the birch trees. Sorry, I'm saying it like a German. Run! Luna's voice intertwined with the sirens that suddenly pierced the sky. We dashed desperately through the forest, the branches of the trees grabbing at us, bramble bushes clinging to our legs. I searched for an easier route. Ooh, I got a point of honor for that. Thank you very much. The darkness was thick and cloying, but I spied an open path through the dark, grasping branches of the forest. I grabbed Kasim's arm once more, leading him swiftly through the trees, our breathing ragged with fear as we burst into an open clearing. The flaming orange leaves of autumn now lay entombed in the ivory snow that lay over the clearing like a shroud, smothering fallen logs that rose up gasping from the ground in one final hopeless attempt to return their place in the sky. Don't move. The pristine, hail-line veneer was broken with a loud crack like the sound of breaking bones. Two border guards stepped forward across from us, assault rifles gripped threateningly in their hands. Raise your arms, one of them yelled, his face set cruel, any empathy long exterminated. Make us, I snarled. The guards signaled as I felt two more guards appear behind us, a German shepherd at their side. One twisted my arm violently. We can make you, he laughed as he easily shoved me forward into the snow. I stumbled, nearly losing my balance, but managing to stay upright as the fury grew. My mind raced, searching for a way out. Some choices may strain your health or willpower. Good. Strain me. When you lose all your health or willpower, you become impaired. This will make physical tasks harder and sometimes impossible. Awesome. The dog! The German shepherd whined as I locked eyes with it, willing it to run away. It obeyed my command, but was instantly yanked back by its keeper, who yelled at it. A distraction was not enough, for I could see in their eyes that we were merely rats that had escaped from their cage, and we could either obediently return there or be put down, but I was no rat. Okay. Krynos is the war form. Yes, of course, of course. My favorite form. The big scary wolf form. Lupus, Hispo, Glabro. All good. Shapeshift. Yeah, and we are going to go Krynos like we did before. And only good things happen from making this decision. I remember that. I remember it's only good things. I was Krynos, the war form. I was a werewolf. Pain hit me like a wrecking ball. Every bone in my body broke and moved and reset. I roared in agony. Panting and growling, I rose and rose and rose. I was an 8-foot-tall killing machine. I was a Garu. So fuck these guards and fuck this situation. I attacked. No, my depression. I drank in the human sphere and panic as I began tearing them to shreds. I was no longer afraid, no longer at their mercy. Their final gargling cries filled me with an inhuman joy as blood splattered across my chest, a delightful crimson of death rising in the air around me as I destroyed their pathetic, flimsy forms. A crimson that spread across my vision. A crimson that spread joyfully across the corners of my vision till all around me was red, red, red. A savage bite ripped into my arm. I whirled furiously to face this new foe, but instead my vision focused as I saw another Garu, their muzzles stained with blood, my blood. My human thoughts returned along with the realization that all of the guards had been killed. The pieces of their bodies were flung across the clearing as a spreading crimson stained the white snow beneath. I shapeshifted back. Boom, bye rage. My rage was gone, replaced by a deadly ache of weariness after my frenzy. The wolves and I shapeshifted back into our Homid forms, a previous rite of dedication, ensuring our clothes returned as well. Whoopsie doopsie. Hello? If you could transform into a big bad wolf, then why wouldn't you? That's fair enough. It's my favorite form. I like the destruction. I crave the chaos. I don't want peace. I want chaos, always. One of the Białowiska Garu approached me, my body still heaving with the change. Right, I think this is the person that we play in the first game, right? If I remember that correctly. Thanks for the help. Yeah, Maya, right, exactly. I said gratefully. I'm glad we got here in time. These border soldiers, she looked at them, the fury of the wolf still evident in her eyes. She introduced herself as Maya, another as Kim, and Daniel. I think Daniel was the wolfborn. Their names blurred together in my head after the events of the night, and I started to feel faint. But I needed to stay strong for Katsim. I realized he was no longer by my side as a ragged panic started to claw within my chest. I asked Maya, a note of violent terror in my voice, but she shook her head, her eyes reflecting my fear. I'm sorry. We saw only the guards. Where was he? There was only the wolves and the bodies. My terrified gaze locked onto the ravaged bodies of the soldiers, a small dark form lying beside them. Katsim! I screamed my brother's name, rushing over as I collapsed down beside him. But I could see it was already too late. Blood stained the front of his clothes as his sightless eyes stared wide up at the moon. As if in a cursed trance, I turned my head, heart pounding dully and the sounds around me fading as I followed his gaze. The clouds rushed in waves away from the center of the night sky as I saw her face. The brightness now turned to a dulled, deathly gray as a mocking voice echoed in my mind. I told you to run. I did, didn't I? You're so mean, Luna. Christ. Chapter 1, Awakening. I can't remember where the demo ends. The demo ends like at some point, like when we're in a bar or something. Return to Warsaw. Luna's mocking voice echoed in the cloying darkness of my room as the vision of the past faded away. During the day, these memories were kept far at bay, but once the light fell, they eagerly crowded at the edges of my mind, ceaselessly repeating their shifting, strident melodies. Some nights, Luna was helpful and kind. Others, like tonight, she was mocking and cruel. Sometimes she said nothing at all. I preferred Luna in one way. Indifferent. Because I'm depressed. Wisdom. The nights when she was indifferent, I felt neither happiness nor pain, in a strange sort of numbing relief. Several long months had passed since that night, since Katsim. Since that had happened. My aunt, Kaja, a Garu from my sept in Afghanistan who had moved to Warsaw years before, had taken me in, even getting me a part-time job at her girlfriend's bar, Apocalyps, a secret meeting place and hangout spot for the local Garu. I enjoyed the work. I had found myself enjoying learning how to mix drinks and getting to know the other Garu of Warsaw, especially when I thought all of the other refugees who struggled to find any work at all. And yet a small, cynical part of me wondered why even bother pursuing my university degree in the first place. I had studied computer science at Warsaw University, but it was now starting to feel like a complete waste. Upon my return this autumn, I had eventually tried to fit back into the city to be less of a burden to Kaja. Ooh, glory, honor. Yeah, I had met up with the other Garu. Trying to get involved in the affairs of the Sept, but it had felt harder and harder to care about protecting the humans. Eventually, I had given up. What was the point in going outside when everything turned dark and gray and memories floated through every stranger's face? I had heard Kaja whispering of Hirano to Victoria, her girlfriend, the Garu despair. Maybe I did, but did it matter? I shoved the thought of Kaja down as I turned on my side, thin black curtains drawn across the window, the moon just beyond, her voice a beckoning call. I answered her call. With my zero rage. So sad. Something moved within me for the first time in a long while. I stepped to the window and threw open the blinds to answer her call. Staring out over the Warsaw cityscape, a solid, jagged line of buildings stood dim and gloomy, with Luna shining high above it all. Her form tonight was the same as the night of my first change into a werewolf. This form had also determined my role in the pack, my auspice. Yes, Theurge. I want to be not a Gelstalker. I want to be a Glasswalker Theurge. Once a daydreamer and a visionary, reality had proven too harsh for the spiritual world. Yes, items are single-use only. Once they are used in a choice, you have removed them from your memory. You've received the gift of Living Ward. Ooh. I don't remember that. I'm sure it was in the other one. A shield against lesser spirits that seek to harm. Gifts can only be used once. Oh! Luna's form soon became obscured as the memory started to play once more, the voice of the moon intoning monotonously as I fell back into bed. The void of the ceiling above transformed to a vision of the past as I lay there, trapped, waiting and willing for the dawn. Dawn's morning rays filtered into the room as I finally got up. I headed down to the kitchen, led by the aromatic smells of breakfast wafting through the hallway. Which means Kaja was already up, which meant conversation. I debated finding some means of escape. No, we're werewolves. We need to eat constantly. That's what I've learned from Book of Hungry Names. But hunger gnawed at me. The tantalizing smell of the breakfast Kaja had cooked wafted through the hallway. My stomach rumbled as I resignedly headed in. Kaja sat cross-legged on an embroidered cushion on the floor, watching the news as they interviewed Helena Zelenska, a Gem, the lower house in the Polish parliament, politician popular for her aid to the Ukrainian refugees. Let's listen. Should we listen in? Lose a point of willpower for some reason by listening in? Why would we lose willpower? Okay, sure. Sure. Let's make it more difficult. I listened as Zelenska spoke about the newest wave of incoming Ukrainian refugees, proclaiming that the Gem was fully behind them as they prepared further funding to help those in need. Oh, I understand why. I cannot help but think that those from our side of the border had yet to receive the same funding, exactly, but I hoped it would not be far behind. Kaja quickly flicked off the TV as she noticed me enter, turning to face me. Her thick black hair was pulled loosely back in a high bun that accentuated her sweetheart face. Despite being from Afghanistan, a country of majority Muslims where women were expected to cover their hair, we had grown up obeying only the litany, a fact we had to conceal whenever we left our sept. Although usually careful when I left our sept's village to follow traditions, I had accidentally been caught once on my own by a stray traveler while exploring the Hindu Kush Mountains. Thank God for mountain goats, is a sentence I never thought I'd say. I'd asked a nearby mountain goat to create a distraction. Naturally, the goat had refused to listen and attacked us both, creating the opportunity I needed to slip away. A maroon tablecloth woven with delicate geometric patterns was spread in front of Kaja, upon which rested breakfast dishes of rot, eggs fried with vegetables, paneer cheese, sambosa, and my favorite, sheer chai tea. Again, I think I asked this in the demo, doesn't chai mean tea? So wouldn't that say tea? Someone correct me if I'm wrong. We owned a table, but we both had spent too many years eating this way to change it for Warsaw's customs. Breakfast? Sure. It all sounds amazing. All sounds absolutely delicious. Sure, I said unenthusiastically. Okay, well, whatever. I could hear her let out a suppressed sigh as I turned to wash my hands before joining her for the meal. I used my right hand to scoop up the eggs with the rote and forced a mouthful. Bland. Everything tasted so bland these days. It's because I'm depressed. I could sense Kaja was worried, but she kept silent as we finished eating and washed up. After the meal, Kaja turned to me, fishing a small package out of her purse. I need to deliver this to Ilona. Can you take it? What's this one? This willpower. Okay. We're looking for Hirano, not willpower. Do I have to? Even I could hear how whiny my voice was as Kaja's brows knitted together fiercely. Samira, I know how tough things have been, but this is getting ridiculous. My brother died, and I killed him, I'm pretty sure. She shoved the package at me as she stood up. I won't take no for an answer, so make sure it gets delivered today. And with that, she was gone. I sighed heavily, wishing that I had denied her request. Looking down at the package in my hand, I examined it closely, wondering what Kaja would need delivered personally to the head of our sept, the group of werewolf packs that resided in Warsaw. I'm going to shake it like a Christmas present. I gently shook it. A small clattering could be heard, and I quickly stopped, not wanting to break whatever was inside. I half-heartedly got ready to go, finally leaving the apartment and locking the heavy door behind me with our old-fashioned bronze key. Hiccup. Taking the creaky 100-plus-year-old lift down to the ground, I stepped out onto the frosty Warsaw streets, my breath billowing in the air as I exhaled. Oh no! The Karen awaited, not losing a point of Hirano because I'm leaving the house. Unexpected encounter. My university friends had expected I would have a hard time in the winter, but to my surprise, I had found the temperatures similar to my home deep in the northern Afghanistan mountains. I shivered as a cold breeze sliced at my face. Even if I was used to it, it didn't mean I enjoyed it. I picked up the pace, heading quickly towards the cairn, the spiritual center of the Garu Sept, where Ilona, our leader, could be found. Yeah, I know how to avoid crowds, because I'm stealthy, because I'm a stealthy gal. Ooh! Whoa! That transition, though. I walked briskly through Warsaw, heading away from the main streets. When I had first moved to Warsaw, the city had overwhelmed me. The enormous crowded skyscrapers, the rushing people, and the streets filled with the toxic fumes from cars, trucks, and buses. So very different from the quiet mountains and tiny villages of my homeland. I would miss that immensely. As someone who is, I mean, I don't know. I've always lived in like bigger cities my whole life, so I think I would miss that if I was from a small village with fresh air. I missed it. The star-swept skies above, sleeping outdoors in the mountains, curled up in my lupus form, the freedom of silence. I brushed the thoughts away as I came upon an abandoned tunnel of gray concrete, a remnant from a long-ago construction site that had become overgrown with moss and weeds. Graffiti lined the walls with such intimidating slogans as H.O. As I idly read them, the spray paintings up ahead seemed to blur together into a crowded mess of artwork, the harsh swirls and blunt lines of black and white seeming to sway upon the walls. Come here, baby. Sorry, my dog. My dog has something to say. Chai is a tea with milk and spices in it? Yes, that's what I thought. Come here, baby. Please stop barking, okay? Cloud, stop barking. So sorry. I apologize. Thank you. Horror filled my mind as the graffitied paint began to painstakingly peel itself off the wall, twisting and twitching spasmodically until it had formed a massive centipede-esque creature of tangled serpentine lines. It sniffed the air as its semblance of a head slanted towards my location. With a jolting speed, the crumbling spider-like monstrosity began crawling robotically towards me, a feeler of dripping paint reaching out. I warily backed up. Ugh. But as it approached, I saw the paint begin to drip off the centipede until only a puddle of putrid gray rested at my feet. My mind raced over what I had seen. What was a worm spirit doing here? Why wouldn't it be? That was a lesser worm spirit, that much was certain, but what was it doing so brazenly showing itself? I hoped Ilona would have the answers. Undercurrents of spiritual energy filled the air, swirling mistily around me as I stepped out onto the road across from the old Gasworks Coliseum, our cairn home to the Sept of Warsaw. The Gasworks Coliseum was a mottled, blood rust red and gray brick structure that, despite its dilapidation, towered with a fierce pride against the grim, overcast skies. A place of ferocity where spiritual power raged forth from every brick, declaring itself as the stronghold of the Garu. While the Warsaw Sept had claimed a part of the city as their own, my cairn in Afghanistan resided within a natural rock cave, set high and deep in the Hindu Kush mountains with delicate veins of emeralds lining the walls of the circular chamber. Wow. And yet they both exuded the same power of the wild, of nature, of the earth that connected us all. I crossed the empty road, approaching the wall as the pulses of spiritual energy grew stronger. I hesitantly approached. Yes. Cairn, neutral, 0. Ferocity brushed at the edges of my mind, but I held it at bay, neither wanting to reject it nor become consumed by it, as I hesitantly approached. Though long since abandoned, the Gasworks Coliseum still lay within the city's bounds, and as the decades passed, security had increased in the form of cameras and security guards, forcing the Sept to devise ways to protect it from wandering eyes. Garu guards. Werewolf protectors paced the border, the fear humans have held for the Garu since the Impergium, a reign of terror when the Garu tyrannized the human inhabitants of the world, instinctively led them to avoid the place. The most important defense, though, was the cairn itself, a living ward which held a powerful guardian spirit that fiercely protected its home. I had sensed it. Only the once when I had attended a Garu meeting while in university. Barely even a glimmer of a feeling, but it had left a deep impression on my mind ever since. As I approached, a thick wall of gray concrete topped with barbed wire came into view. Another reason I had avoided coming here after my return to Warsaw. That's right, I think we leap the wall and we get in trouble for that, so let's do that again. That was funny. Although I kept my regard fixed well away from the barbed wire, I felt lighter than I had in days as I recklessly vaulted over the fence. The wind rushed through my hair and filled my lungs, the adrenaline pumping as I landed adroitly on the scraggly grass-covered ground. "Hey kid, you're not allowed in there." Shit. I heard someone yelling from the far end of the fence as Alona's imposing form appeared suddenly in front of me. She gave me a disapproving stare. Yes. 3 Hirano. We're doing it. "I'll take care of this." She disappeared. I waited anxiously, thinking about Ilona and what Kaja had told me about her when I had first arrived. Daddy's a trans. Oh, that's right. Someone told me that Alona is from the other game, Heart of the Forest. I just don't remember which character that was. And I know this plot point here, or this character identifier, however you want to call it, her being a trans woman, comes into play later with I don't remember his name, with another character. I'm really good. I remember everything. Her ascension to Sept leadership. Give me some background information on her that I've forgotten. Kaja said many were surprised when Ilona had become the Sept leader. Although a fierce and dedicated fighter, she was a woman of few words, and many saw her as being easily intimidated. A mistake they did not make more than once. The minutes ticked by. I scanned the fencing where Ilona had gone, but she did not reappear. My gaze wandered over the abandoned lot surrounding the cairn, a desolate stretch of straggling wild grasses and patches of patched dirt covered intermittently with piles of decaying snow. The overcast skies ahead parted as the sun streamed forth upon the grim cairn, highlighting the rust red of the outer walls and accentuating the darkness within. As the gleaming rays shone down, they touched upon an object out of place amidst the dusky snow. Whoop. A bottle of cheap beer. Seems very fitting. Depression is too spooky for my dog, yeah. My dog, he's very sensitive. There was another time where I was doing Book of Hungry Names, and it was like a particularly like WTF. It was part of the WTF arc, and my dog wouldn't stop barking. Some school kids must have gotten in. Hopefully they got back out, though leaving behind a full unopened bottle seems to suggest otherwise. I take it. I keep it. An unopened glass bottle of cheap beer. Items can be used only once. I'll save that for later. For when I'm deep in the depression. Deeper. It was still tightly sealed, and as a part-time worker, I did not look a free beer in the mouth. That's so funny. Ilona finally reappeared, wiping something off her hands. Oh my god, did she kill him? She caught my gaze as her dark eyebrows furrowed menacingly. Why would I don't want to spend willpower. I want to be like selfish about keeping my willpower and like freewheeling with my Hirano. Does that make sense? What happened? What happened? I asked worriedly. Ilona tilted her head at me, frowning disapprovingly. Thankfully, it was just a pedestrian, so I told him I was a security guard here. But if it had been an actual guard, we would have been in trouble. Her dark green eyes narrowed, which is why we used the entrance we created and ensured no one is within the vicinity. I wanted to hop the fence. I'm a werewolf. Nod. I nodded, which apparently was not quite the right response, as she lets out a short sigh. I'm depressed. Ilona is cautious of you. As she should be. Ilona turned around, briskly striding into the Coliseum without seeing if I was following as I jogged to catch up. Stepping through the dim, spreading shadow that emanated from the towering building, I followed Ilona into the old Coliseum. Cairn is favorable, though. That's nice. The broken panes of glass from the numerous windows embedded in the Coliseum walls allowed sunlight to seep in from all sides, lazily painting glowing diamonds upon the packed soil. A thin, rusting gray staircase encircled the inner walls of the cairn, rising up to a balcony that would fill the rest of the sept during a moot, but now stood empty. 1 second. I forgot to shut off my phone. And I'm getting a phone call. Spread out across the ground floor of the cairn, I could see the forms of various Garu from different tribes, an aura of menace surrounding them even in their human form. I could awkwardly wave hello, but I'll just ignore them because I'm cool like that. We ignored each other. While my sept in Afghanistan has been welcoming and tight-knit, a community of outcasts amidst a country predominated by a single religion, I had found the Warsaw sept to have a more defined hierarchy, one I was not a part of. Okay, I'm gonna skip the, I already am at 3 Hirano. I'm gonna skip the Hirano just to get a point of rage, because I have no rage, and I'd like a little. Just like, can I just have a little bit of rage? Just a crumb of rage, please? It was infuriating. We were part of the same sept, weren't we? And yet just because of this Hirano, this despair, the rest of the Garu treated me like a pariah. Even if there was some other reason, why not just say it to my face? As I observed which Garu were present that day, I noticed members of my own tribe amongst them. Yeah. Glasswalkers. Yay. You have received the gift of Doppelganger. That's fun. The ability to appear as another human or werewolf. Gifts can be used only once. Yeah, only once. Everybody only gets one. There was one aspect in particular that had convinced me to join the Glasswalkers. Technology. The tech spirits. The tech spirits. I do like them. Although the tech spirits were mainly spirits of the Weaver, I enjoyed interacting with creatures that appreciated order. Drawing my gaze away from the other Garu, I followed Ilona across the cairn, passing the very heart of the Coliseum in which rested a remnant of the sept's former cairn from before the war. The intricately carved black marble capital of a Romanesque column whose broken, jagged end had been thrust into the ground. Above Gaia's soil could be read a line of Old Polish that had been inscribed heavily into the stone. Not even going to try to pronounce this. Let me work while you rest. Let me work while you rest. For me, it had always meant one thing. We were companions. That should give me a point of Hirano. I disagree with not getting a point of Hirano for that one, honestly. We were companions. We uplifted each other, both simultaneously working and resting in our own turn. Then the vision disappeared, reality returning as I realized Alona had been addressing me. She was calling me by my werewolf name, the one I had chosen after my first change. Right. Okay, so it was Sohal, meaning moon of a far-off planet, right? Thank you, Jerry, for reminding me of which one it was. That's the one we picked last time, and I love it. I love it as much as I did the first time I saw it. Sohal meaning moon of a far-off planet. Maybe it had been presumptuous, but I had imagined a kinship to Luna when I chose it. It had been a long time since I had heard that name. No longer fit. No, I remember I didn't pick this. This is another Hirano option. I think last time I picked the Hirano option before when I was like, it doesn't matter, instead of taking a point of rage. But I'm not going to pick it no longer fit me because I like it too much. I refuse to believe that. So a bittersweet feeling. I'll compromise. I'll get to the Hirano. I'll get myself fully depressed. I promise. I got a long way to go. It was a bittersweet feeling. It reminded me of joyful memories of home and family and friends. Memories now tinged with the acrid stabbing of loss. You brought Kaja's package then? Kaja must have texted her earlier. Pulling it out of my bag, curiosity rose in me once more. I ask about it, to make Ilona hate me even more. Ilona regarded me coldly. I cannot show you what's in it unless you hand it over. I quickly gave it to her. Taking the box in one hand, Ilona deftly opened it with a single slash of her dark green painted fingernail, revealing the contents. A severed finger. Perhaps once human, it had become pure steel of a mottled, dark bottle blue with tiny razor-sharp edges like those of a knife jutting out indiscriminately around it. What is that? A lesser bane of some sort, Ilona explained calmly. Kaja had discovered it in Warsaw and tracked it down, slaying it along with some others of her pack. She held it out towards me. What are your impressions of it? I examined it more closely. Where did this take place? I asked slowly. Ilona told me the address, a location near the Vistula River. Vistula River. I quickly grabbed my laptop and in a few minutes had the security cameras for that spot. Ilona leaned in, her dark green eyes narrowing as... Oh, she painted her nails to match her eyes. That's nice. Her dark green eyes narrowing as the worm spirit showed up on the screen, a thing of cerulean steel covered entirely in the same sharp razor blades as its finger. Turning abruptly about face, it stared directly into the camera, tilting its head. A second later, the screen went blank. As Ilona placed it into a pouch, the finger seemed to emanate with a final pulse of dark energy before she secured it with a strap. I wonder if this all could have something to do with the worm spirit I encountered earlier. Ilona's astute gaze bore into me. You seem like you have something to say. Yeah. I saw a worm spirit. Earlier on my way here, there was a worm spirit. Shock stamped across her strong features as I told her all about the spirit I had encountered earlier. Ilona stood silent in the contemplation, breaking in at last to slowly say, "This is becoming a worrying pattern now, when combined with yesterday's death and the recent accusations." The death? Who died? The words were forced out of my mouth as a rising wave of tangled memories pushed in on my mind. Don't mind while I panic thinking about my brother that I murdered. I calmed myself as I listened intently. One of the Garu, Ilona says, as a painted sadness flitted across her face. We think it was by a worm spirit. The one Kaja defeated? Possibly, Ilona shrugged, her brows knitting together in momentary uncertainty. Hopefully. Right now, one of the glasswalkers is investigating it, so we should know more soon. What about the accusations? I asked Alona about the accusations as she hesitated. There have been rumors of attacks happening. Some feel the worm is responsible. Although the worm has always been a problem in Warsaw, what is happening now feels unprecedented. And as fast as we destroy the lesser worm spirits, others appear in their place, Ilona said wearily. What do you think is causing it? I asked curiously. Ooh, we went from cautious to neutral. Go us. I believe there is something behind it all, manipulating all of these spirits, but what exactly I cannot say for certain. Before I could ask more, another Garu came to speak with her as she excused herself. I felt something stirring within me. Less depression. For the first time in a long time, I felt a faint excitement stirring within me as I mulled over what she had told me. I lingered for a few moments, hoping to learn more, but when it became obvious Ilona would be busy for quite some time, I decided to just ask Victoria tonight instead. On my way out, I spied some equipment near a corner of the cairn that was kept for the use of all the Garu. Tech equipment, mine. Gimme, it's mine. I need it. Tech equipment, laptops, surveillance systems, even a drone littered the cairn, evidence of the Garu's entrance into the modern era. Ooh, but what do we take? I don't remember what we took last time. Gimme, it's mine. Infrared. I think we took the infrared sensor, heat sensor. I'm not sure. Right, I think I took the infrared sensor because for whatever reason I thought maybe I could think of some scenarios where I might need an infrared sensor and very few scenarios where I would need a heat sensor. Unless we were hunting vampires. But I think I'm going to take the heat sensor because it just seems funny. It's just I don't know what I would use it for, but I'd like to find out. Probably nothing. A small camera for detecting heat-giving objects. Items can be used only once. Okay. We'll see if I have to use it for anything. That'd be really funny. Ooh, I hope that name is Andre, because I don't know how to say that any other way. Andre Skarvinsky. As I neared the entrance, the door slammed open as a Garu burst into the cairn. Oh, right. This is the Cult of Fenris guy, right? His overwhelming presence, accentuated by a fierce scowl that highlighted sharp features, instantly drew the eyes of everyone in this room. Ooh. He's a Shadow Lord. Right. I don't know if he's Cult of Fenris, but I know he's a jerk. That's all I remember about him. A native, wow, Warsawian from one of the wealthy families. That's a hard word. Andre was from one of the wealthiest families in Warsaw. Some even whispered that his family had used his werewolf powers in the past for their own gain. Ilona alone continued to pointedly ignore him as he strode angrily up to her, the sunlight casting an ethereal glow upon his blonde head as if anointing him as its avenging angel. Whereas Ilona was quiet steel with the air of a 5-star general, Andre had a careless charisma and ruthless recklessness that had led to his becoming leader of the Wolf Father Pack at a young age. I mean, he's from the Wolf Father Pack. Fenrir, come on. It's gotta be Cult of Fenris, right? It can't be a coincidence. Ew. No, we're wary of him. We don't like him. I was wary of him. While many applauded his ferocity and confidence, I had also seen glimpses of a subtle arrogance and disdain towards those he saw as beneath him, even if he were a Garu. Ilona! His voice was smooth. Ilona, with underlying contempt as she slowly turned to face him. Why have you not taken action yet? What was going on? Taken action against what? Ilona's icy voice cut through the cavernous room. As I mentioned earlier, I cannot do anything without proof. Andre's blue eyes grew calm with a rigid fury. Ever since these refugees arrived in this country, there has been report after report of them attacking Polish citizens. Reports? What the hell was he talking about? I waited for Ilona to speak as he continued. They have burgled our country, and that worded our women, because Twitch won't be happy if I say that, I assume. Even the politicians have confirmed this. At this, Ilona interrupted, her voice cold. And clearly you have not done your research properly, or you would know these claims were proven to be false. In fact, it is often the refugees who are the victims, as I am sure Samira can attest. She indicated me as Andre turned slightly to face me, a derisive look on his handsome features. Don't call him handsome. Ah, Samira, our very own refugee. Perhaps you could shed some light on what exactly your countrymen have been doing here. His light words seemed to hold an underlying meaning. They haven't been doing anything, which you would know as apparently you don't have any proof. What I know is that if Emmerich had not been investigating them, he would be alive right now. His blue eyes blazed as I stared at him in confused horror. Before I could respond, Ilona interrupted. That's enough, Andre. Emmerich's death is still under investigation, but what we do know is that it certainly was not caused by a refugee. Now, until you do have any definitive proof of their wrongdoings, her tone implied she thought this unlikely, then I consider this issue as dropped. With an air of frigid finality, Ilona turned her back on Andre, indicating the meeting was over. Andre momentarily looked furious before he calmed himself with a frightening suddenness as he gave a small mocking bow of his head. If that's what our leader commands. I sensed that it most certainly was not over. Although Andre forced a smile as he turned fiercely around, I caught a glimpse of his bright blue eyes that burned with an avenging fury.
The other Garu seemed to be awkwardly looking anywhere but at us as a hushed silence fell over the cairn after Andre had left. What the hell was that about? Why did Andre hate the refugees so much? Because he's a racist? Maybe, possibly. Why did Andre hate the refugees so much? While there had always been a bit of a divide between the Polish and non-Polish Garu, this seemed to go far beyond that. I wanted to ask Ilona, but as I glanced down at my phone, I noticed with a start that my job at Apocalypse would be starting soon. Making my way towards the entrance, I turned to close the doors behind me when the ancient stone at the cairns caught my gaze once again. This time I found myself unable to look away as a vision filled my sight, a vision of spirits. A strange light seemed to emanate from the very earth itself, an elusive otherworldly presence that seemed to glow, easing my heart and mind. I inhaled, tasting the scent of nature and life. My health isn't that great. I just realized. What if I thought I'd been like laying in my bed depressed doing nothing. Are these from bed sores? I lose the rage that I got. Bummer. Oh no. Okay, so that was a plus health. So I want that filled up. That's good. That's good. Okay, that's good. Still, I feel like it should be all the way up, but whatever. I inhaled, tasting the scent of nature and life. The vision wrapped around me with a slow, briny wave of intoxicating hope as it swirled before my gaze. And then, with a muffled stillness, the door shut me out and the vision vanished. Alleyway brawl. Hurrying through the darkening streets of Warsaw across the cobblestone roads, I neared Apocalypse, the bar owned by Kaja's girlfriend Victoria. The blazing lights and loud crowds of the pubs and restaurants that lined wide streets gave way entirely to dark shadows. I have no rage, as I ducked round the corner of a building into a long, narrow alleyway. At the end, blood-red bricks formed the outline of an enormous wolf upon the wall, beneath which a solid black cast-iron door stood firm, practically blending in with the alleyway at night. Near the entrance lingered a group of drunken middle-aged men. At first I thought they were Garu, but as I neared, I saw they were humans, no doubt returning from the football match and stopping to urinate in the alleyway. Gross. Catching sight of me, they began to wolf whistle, the irony of which was not lost on me. Rats. I don't think I picked that last time. Rats, literally, as I saw one poke its head out of a sewer grate. I willed it to help me out. As I watched, rats began pouring from the sewers. The men stared at them for a moment, then began yelling as they all quickly ran away, stumbling over each other like a scene in an old comedy movie. No, I like scared them away last time or something. I turned to go, but one man grabbed my arm. Judging by the noxious smell of his breath, he had clearly been too drunk to know what was happening around him. Looks like it's just you and me. The slurred, lascivious tone made me shudder. I tried to shove him off, but he just gripped tighter. Didn't you come to this country to be a whore? Or are you going to try to convert us? He laughed raucously as rage suffused through me with a wrenching furiosity. I can't shapeshift. I have no rage. I remain a human. I had to get away. I used my full strength to shove him off. Now I can get a point of rage. With no willpower, though. God! I shoved him off using my full strength. Ducking away, I quickly ran into the bar, my mind twisting with fury. That was the smart choice. I know it was. Zen Wolf, avoid a confrontation with local drunks. That's me. One werewolf versus a single human was never a fair fight for them. I want my willpower back. Apocalypse. A Gothic-style bar lined the wall immediately in front of the entrance, the vibrant, multicolored liquids on the blackwood shelves behind glowing in the dim light that softly illuminated the place. Cast-iron stools and tables lined the wide space, which would soon be filled with the rowdy, inebriated Garu who came to party at Apocalypse. At the far end, an archway led to labyrinthian hallways in which were tucked small, secluded rooms where the Garu could conduct tribe business. I occasionally joined the other glasswalkers. Yes. I occasionally joined the other glasswalkers. A small bevy of laptops marked the rooms where my tribe could be found. Thankfully, our interactions had already largely taken place online, so my Hirano state had not affected our relationships too markedly. They weren't sick of my sad yet. But get ready. Above the bar itself hung small, faded marionettes suspended from the ceiling that smiled eerily down on the bar patrons. The place certainly had character. I like it. I think it looks cool. New Garu who came to the city often recognized me as the bartender at that bar with the creepy puppets. The night was still early and the bar was fairly empty, aside from Alexander, my pack leader, a few Garu I vaguely recognized, and Victoria, who nodded as she finished mixing a pint for Pat, or Dr. Patricia Myers, as she was formerly known, an intense, white-blonde, goth-looking woman who was sitting at the bar. I had befriended Pat when I was studying in Warsaw and reconnected with her after I had returned. I hurried behind the bar. 0 willpower. I had barely seen her since I had returned, and it felt awkward to be friendly now. The back was crowded with cardboard boxes and supplies, and I had to shove a few out of the way to grab my apron from its hook. Pulling it on, I heard Victoria join me. Oh, right, she's supposed to be British. Her London accent seemed especially thick today as she regarded me with concern. I can't do a British accent, not any of them. Not like you to be late. She leaned against the wall, her tall, slender model's body somehow managing to make it look elegant. What's going on? There were some drunken assholes outside, but I just ignored them. Her face sagged with relief. Well, thank Luna for that. Last thing I need is to tell Kaja her niece got into a street brawl with some humans. She turned to go. Come on, we better get this night started. Oh, that's a real zoomed in picture of your face, buddy. Another wild night at Apocalypse, mixing drinks and serving the rowdy Garu. I could bring Pat and Alexander their drinks or take a short break with Victoria amongst the loud music and boozy chaos. Let's talk to Victoria first. Because I like her. During a lull in the madness of the night, I managed to grab a short break. Leaning back against the counter, I took a deep breath and closed my eyes, feeling the cool steel pressing into my lower back. Victoria joined me. Leaning back as well as she let out an overdramatic sigh. Fuck me, I thought we'd never have a break. Tonight seems especially busy, I observed. Victoria looked out over the crowded bar, her brow furrowing slightly. You know, something seems off tonight. She gave a quick shake of her head. Not even tonight, really. The past few months, things have been really strange. I recalled things I had seen online as I slowly responded. You're not wrong. In the Warsaw groups I'm in online, things have felt different, more hostile. She instantly nodded. Hostile? That's spot on. You know, I also can't help wondering if it has something to do with the triad. Of course, we know that since the worm became ascendant, everything's been off the rails, and in the city especially, the wild has always had less of a hold. She paused, but even the Weaver, whose spirits of order typically thrive in the city, has seemed different recently. What do you think is the reason? A little of column A, a little of column B, she shrugged. I don't think the worm... Oh no, this is like before. No, the worm and the worm. The worm and the worm and the worm. I don't think the Weaver and the worm both are being overactive, which spells trouble. And, she hesitated, avoiding my gaze, I think it's centered around all the recent changes in the city. It's because of us, isn't it? The refugees? No, she hesitated. And yes. I think the worm is doing what the worm does, taking advantage of the human greed and cruelty that already exists, and manipulating it to make things even more fucked up. In the forest as well. I heard from Maya in that forest. Come on, help me out. Biavoviska forest, Sept, that they're having trouble there as well. So it's not even a city thing. Before I could ask more, a customer approached the bar, drunkenly leaning against it as they began loudly singing the shot song. Shots, 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 shots. Victoria pushed herself off from the bar. All right, enough of the doom and gloom. We've got people to serve. Her usual cheerfulness returned as she headed over to help him. But I could not shake it off so easily. Boom. Got sad. Okay, yes. I talked to Victoria, so let's do Alexander next. Just go in order here. Balancing a drink carefully through the wild, carousing crowd, I made my way towards the back of the bar where Alexander sat alone at one of the tables. His long navy blue overcoat blended in with the shadows while his eyes were fixed on the book in his hand, only looking up when I brought him his Cosmopolitan. The first time he had ordered his drink choice had surprised me, but his disdainful expression when I had questioned it had instantly shut me up. Cosmos are delicious. I had joined his pack when I first came to Warsaw. Ooh, that's right. We picked the name of our pack. The baleful otter. The arcane lynx. The immortal peacock. I think I picked baleful otter before. Known for being fun-loving and mischievous, but coordinated savage fighters in battle. Notable for its fierce independence and determination. No. Confident bordering on arrogance with a penchant for skillful tactics. We gotta go baleful otter. Fun-loving and mischievous. Please. Seemingly cute and playful, otters could demonstrate a coordinated savagery and a desire for revenge if one of their kin had been hurt. Alexander had only been leading the pack for a few months when I had joined. Although his features appeared mostly Korean, Kaja had told me he was half Polish and had spent his entire life here in Warsaw. He intrigued me, I suppose. Why not? He had always seemed set apart from the other Garu with his cool, collected appearance, yet I had caught glimpses of a fierce rage in his blue eyes, which made me feel that perhaps he was the same as the rest of us. Alexander indicated the seat next to him, interrupting my thoughts. Do you have a moment? Because I have no willpower. Can I ask what for? I said, raising my eyebrows. A Garu walked by at that moment, and Alexander's eyes flashed as he watched them. Just sit, please. The please felt like an afterthought, but I could not ignore a direct order from my pack leader, and after a quick glance at the bar to make sure Victoria did not need help, I sat down. Leaning in slightly, his tall frame half bent over the table, he began speaking in a low tone as he got straight to the point. There has been some trouble with the Sept recently, a divide that has only worsened in the past few months. Ilona has asked me to investigate further, and she suggested you may be able to help as well. Why me? I said in surprise. You are not well connected to the Sept. I winced. It was true, but it surprisingly hurt to hear. So who exactly is causing this divide? I asked, although I cynically thought I had a fairly good idea of who it might be. The eye color thing is still not different as well. Blue and black eyes. Alexander's black eyes momentarily... I do remember that. I do remember that from the demo. Alexander's black eyes momentarily flared with a hint of some emotion I could not quite place as he coolly answered. I am assuming you know of Andrei Skarzinski? Unfortunately. I said irritably. Alexander raised his eyebrows. You don't like him? Of course not. Yeah, to rage. I responded angrily as I told him of the events of earlier. Alexander leaned forward, a piece of his dark, silky hair falling across his face as he spoke. Listen, Samira, I believe that your particular help in this matter will be invaluable. Before I could respond, an intoxicated Garu stumbled by, bumping into her chair as his drink splashed all over the ground. He looked down at it morosely before drunkenly careening off. Thankful for the interruption, I stood up. I should probably get back to work, I said hastily. Can I let you know later? Alexander nodded. Of course, although I must caution that time is of the essence. Please let me know by tomorrow morning at the latest. I quickly agreed before squeezing my way back through the raucous masses of Garu to the bar. Despite myself, I could not resist casting a final glance back at Alexander. His features, usually filled with an aloof confidence, now appeared startlingly, there we go, fierce, as his intense blue eyes, they're back to blue again, stared unseeing across the crowded room. I'm dead. That's so funny. I wish I had eyes that flicked around different colors. All right, let's talk to Pat. I want to talk to Pat. The goth girl with the blonde hair. This one. Heavy rock music blasted in the background as I poured another beer for Pat. Handing it to her, she pounded it down before letting out a deep exhale as she heavily set the now empty glass back in front of me. What's that, your fourth beer? I said, trying to lighten the mood. Fifth, actually. I expected a joke, but her expression remained serious. I leaned on my elbows facing Pat. Okay, tell me what's going on. Pat swirled the heavy glass easily in her slim hand, staring down at it moodily. I don't suppose you've heard about Emmerich. I recalled the name Andre had said earlier as my heart dropped. The Garu who was killed. Pat's glossy eyes turned dark. That's the one. He was a glasswalker and a friend of mine. I hesitated, debating whether to just walk away or offer condolences, but Pat was already speaking. Pat leaned in. Why would you walk away? Pat leaned in closer to me, her expression serious. We're pretty sure his death was caused by a bane. A bane? I asked in confusion, recalling that Andre had mentioned his death had something to do with the refugees. Oh, excuse me. Samira, Victoria's voice carried over the noise as I turned to see her motioning to the gathering swarms of waiting customers. Sorry, Pat, I've got to get back to work, I said distractedly. Wait, before you go. She hesitated for a moment, then plowed ahead. I really need some help with this. Do you think you could meet me tomorrow at Wazenki Park? I'm supposed to meet Alexander, but I'll think about it. Possibly, I'll think about it. Her face filled with relief. Thank you, Samira. And if you can, I completely understand. Just let me know tomorrow morning, okay? A gang of Garu began yelling at me for rounds of beer, and I quickly agreed to text her the next day before hurrying back over. Want beer? Closing time. The night eventually slowed down to a halt. We poured the final few drinks for the remaining stragglers before locking up the bar. I said my goodbyes to Victoria and set off home, my mind running over the events of the night, especially Alexander and Pat's proposals. I felt happy. I feel good. For the first time in a while, my heart felt strangely light. Really? Okay. Want to stick to the sad. From home to home, as I lay in bed once more, Luna's light streamed gently through the open window while my mind churned with the events of the day. I tried to calm the thoughts, to perhaps even fall asleep to a dreamless night for once. But it was not to be, for as the clamoring thoughts turned to a murmur that ebbed and flowed, it was not sleep that took their place, but a memory. All right, I remember this. We had another brother, didn't we? Where are we going? Tarek asked. I looked at him in surprise, shifting the weight of the baby in my small arms. After our village had been bombed by the Taliban, wielding weapons gifted to them years earlier by the United States, we had left the rubble of our home and the corpses of our parents and fled. My older brother should have made the decisions from then on as the man of the family, but he had been in shock, barely speaking since that night, and I had been forced to carry our younger brother Katsim across the rugged northern terrain. We're going to safety, I said with false confidence. I didn't really know where we were going exactly, but I sensed somehow it would protect us. Tariq just nodded, as if my answer had been enough to feed his momentary glimpse of clarity before subsiding once more into silence. I continued onward, the terrain becoming harsher and steeper as my thin legs carried us over rocky steps that turned into hills that turned into mountains. As we crested a peak, I drew in a sharp breath. The view momentarily painted a picture over my inner turmoil as I stared in awe at the valley before us. Verdant fields caught between two mountain ranges of stone and snow and rubble. An azure river that matched the daytime sky ran lazily through it, a small village nestled alongside the flowing waters. Walnut trees and apple orchards dotted the valley floor, the fragrant scent of fruit trees faintly perfuming the pure mountain air. There, that place was calling to me. Family. Oh, God. I wasn't sure why this thought sprang to mind. My remaining family was here with me. Yet I sensed that within that village there were people who were also somehow my kin. Turning excitedly to share the good news with Tarek, I looked around at the now empty plateau. Where did he go? I continued onwards, as if in a trance, towards the valley. Perhaps he was on his way there too. As I searched, I felt a sudden emptiness in my arms. I stared down at the place where Katsim had just lain. Oh, God. I looked frantically around, dropping to my knees, scratching in the rubble when the ground below me lit up with a sickly glow as I turned my head to stare up at the night sky. The starlit galaxy above transformed before my eyes with a frisson of static, like a glitched-out computer screen. What is that? As the stars began buzzing around like thousands of tiny flies, circling the ragged, gaping black hole where the full moon had previously resided. What was in there? What could possibly be in there? A faint, raspy, scraping noise rattled ominously from the skies as I stared, it's so cool, in terrified fascination. A single insectoid claw curled delicately out of the black circle as terror filled my heart, the fear grasping frantically at my mind in screaming waves. More claws emerged, embedding themselves into the night sky as with a horrific screech, a massive inhuman face filled with the unnatural gap. It stared down directly at me from the sky above as a wide, malevolent grin spread from end to end, revealing violently red, sharpened teeth, too many for its mouth. Oh, God. I froze in fear because that's what I would do. That's terrifying. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't do anything except stare helplessly at the writhing dark shape that wriggled out of the hole. Its carapace of matted black fur was covered in thousands of oozing, gaping holes. It opened its maw with another piercing screech as it dove towards me. I can't move, I'm too scared. Only watch as it opened its maw. Its hot breath blasted into me as I felt it swallow me whole. And I get sadder. I wake up sadder. Perfect. Perfect. Yeah, we will have as many brothers die as needed for the depression. That is correct. I awoke drenched in sweat. Luna returned to the sky. I quickly stood and shoved the curtains closed. Another sleepless night. Oh, God. Perfect. Please wait. I can do that. I can wait. So I can't see it say please wait, but it does. You have completed a chapter. Let's see how many players made the same choices as you. What? You encountered a worm spirit in the form of a spider, 100%. Is that really a choice if every single person made the same choice? You entered the cairn by jumping over the wall. What? Come on. You had a nightmare. Why did only 60% of people have a nightmare? What? What? Come on. Is it me? Am I doing something bad? Am I playing the game wrong? The hunt begins. Yeah. Ooh, I got a thing. Back on your paws. Finish chapter 1. Aftermath. The remnants of the dream remained with me. A sense of terror. Yeah, you think? The maw closing around me, its breath hot and fetid, sharp teeth embedding in my body. Even though I knew in my mind it was a dream, the terror of that moment lingered on till the early hours of the morning, as I finally opened my eyes, bleary and tired as if I had not slept at all. From the living room, I could hear Kaja moving around, getting ready for work, and I could get sadder. I waited until Kaja left for work so she wouldn't see me get even sadder. I did not feel like speaking with Kaja this morning as I waited in bed until I heard her leave. As soon as the door closed, I threw back the covers and I got out of bed. I checked my phone. That's so bad. Beep, 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 beep. 1 second, please. Speaking of beep, beep, beep. Two text alerts from Alexander and Pat flashed on my screen as I opened my phone. Yeah, I'm gonna open Alexander's first. Sorry, Pat. I'm not that invested in your thing. I opened the Alexander's first. The time stamp marked it as having arrived at 5:26 a.m. Oh God, I hope he isn't a morning person. Too depressed to be a morning person right now. I was not an early riser at the best of times, and now my recent insomnia meant that I often slept restlessly long past dawn. I read the text. Hello, ooh, look at that. Hello, Samira. Regarding what I mentioned last night. Oh, this is wiggling. It's wiggling. Are you available to meet up in Castle Square to discuss further? Why does he text like an old person? I was literally just thinking that. Why does he text like a 60-year-old? I didn't think he was that much older than me, but he sounded oddly formal. I remembered hearing he had attended a boarding school. I suppose that accounted for it. I read Pat's text next. She had only sent it a few minutes earlier. Hey, Samira, are you still interested in meeting up today? If yes, then let me know and I'll send you the details of where to meet. I reread the messages, debating whose proposal I should accept. Time to choose. Past has asked for your help in investigating the supernatural murder of Emmerich the Glasswalker. Alexander seeks to uncover the dark secrets behind Andre and the Wolf Father pack and the growing divide within the Warsaw Sept. You may only choose one investigative path. This choice will affect the remainder of the story. Nice. Nice, Alexander. Boom. Sorry. Sorry, Pat. Sorry. I'm just not that invested in your story. I'm so sorry. Find someone else. There's plenty of people who can help you out there. I opened my chat with Alexander, quickly typing a short message telling him I was free to meet today. I sent a quick text to Pat as well, letting her know I was busy. She messaged back, reassuring me that she understood and best of luck. Thanks. A few seconds later, Alexander's response popped up on the screen, sending me the location of a cafe in Old Town Warsaw. I used my phone's map. I carefully selected the best route before setting off for the cafe. God, Kaja's apartment is nice. While this journey was free of any worm spirit encounters, there was nevertheless an air of unease in the city as I made my way to Castle Square. The light gray skies overhead were dashed intermittently with the dark underbellies of clouds that threatened snowfall. The clouds soon made good on their promise. Dainty snowflakes began falling tremulously around me as I approached the old town of Warsaw. Tremulously. Old Town Cafe. Despite the early hours, the light layer of snow that now blanketed the cobblestones of Castle Square was already crisscrossed by meandering trails of footprints. Plak Zamkowi Castle Square was, despite its name, a mildly triangular-shaped open area with the royal castle of Castle Square faced opposite tightly packed townhouses of pale blues, yellows, and orange. Typically, the roofs were a striking burnt reddish orange, but today the thin film of snow that lay over them created a sort of sandwich effect, with the pavement below, the building fronts serving as a colorful filling. After the devastation of World War II, the city had almost entirely been reconstructed, but remnants of the past remained, including one of my favorite landmarks. Ooh. Ooh. Well, I've heard of the Barbican and the Royal Castle. I don't know particularly the Warsaw, which castle they mean in Warsaw, but I have no idea what this is. Sigismund's Column? I have no idea what this is, so picking that one. So I actually have no idea. I'd like to know. Sigismund's Column, another causality of the war. Fortunately, the statue at the top of the column had been saved. King Sigismund himself, who was famous for moving the capital to Warsaw from Krakow. I did not know that. That's amazing. Seeing this filled me with hope for my own country. Although my country lay in devastated ruins, I had hoped that one day we too could rebuild again from the rubble of war. I began briskly walking past Sigismund's Column, avoiding the patches of snow-covered ice as I headed towards the cafe where Alexander had asked to meet. Dare I lose a point of Hirano? Dare I? Why would I lose a point of Hirano? For saying I had been here recently, because it indicates I left the house? That doesn't seem fair. That doesn't seem right. What if I... Alright. I just want to see what happens. Okay, your Hirano decreases when you take... Okay. When your Hirano is high, you are unable to perform difficult actions and the Krinos and Hispo forms become unavailable. Man... Alright, I'll try and keep a balance, but high balance. I'll keep a high balance. I had been here recently. It was a popular tourist destination, and I enjoyed getting lost amidst the crowds, forgetting about everything that was happening far away from here. I never want to be under 3. Approaching the cafe, I noted Alexander was already there, sipping a steaming cup of coffee out of a smooth white porcelain mug. For some godforsaken reason, he had decided to sit in the cafe's outdoor area despite the frigid temperatures. He looked annoyingly comfortable. What an amazing thing to say. While I was wishing I had added an extra layer, the cold appeared not to bother him as he stared down at his phone, a small frown upon his features. Cafes were another pleasantry I had enjoyed when first arriving in Warsaw. Although I had been to one before when visiting my older brother in Kabul, my village in the Panjshir Valley had certainly not had any. As I walked towards Alexander, I felt a snowflake settle upon my cheek. I glanced across the square and up at the slate-gray sky, watching as the snow drifted down in winding patterns, the white, feathery flakes morphing slowly to blackened ash. I looked away. Oh, God. It was a trick, nothing more. Samira? I blinked as I heard Alexander call my name. The snow resumed its gentle fall around us as I saw him regarding me with dark eyebrows raised. Is everything all right? Ash. He looked at me questioningly. It was as if ash was falling from the sky. I realized I was babbling as I took a deep breath and told him what I had seen. Alexander's blue eyes, okay, we're blue again, glinted as he considered what I had just told him. It felt spiritual. It had a strong spiritual feel to it. He was instantly alert. You think there's a spirit here? I hesitated, sensing around for any hint of a presence, then shook my head. No, it's gone now, but it didn't feel like a creature. Alexander leaned back, tapping the side of his mug unconsciously and appearing lost in thought. So what do you think it was? Ooh, look at me. 3 glory. He shrugged. Difficult to say, as I was not the one to experience it, but it does not seem to indicate anything positive. Well, that was helpful. We can deal with that later, though, if need be. For now, please take a seat. He indicated the chair before him. A frigid breeze of northern air swept through the open square, buffeting me as I shivered, glancing askance at the not terribly inviting snow-covered chair. Couldn't we sit inside? I asked, but Alexander shook his head firmly. I mean, would you even have seating outside during the winter time? Outside will be much more preferable for what we need to discuss. I sighed deeply. There was clearly no changing his mind as I dejectedly brush off the snow. And you make me lose some health? You jerk. I should have gone with Pat. I regret all of my decisions instantly. I took a seat, wrapping my jacket around my body tighter. An awkward silence hovered in the glacial air between us, punctuated only by the sounds of tourists loudly discussing the sights of Castle Square and the jingling of doorbells as customers bustled in and out of shops. I'm going to get another coffee. Would you like something? Alexander asked abruptly to my surprise. It's on me, he added. Ooh. A caramel cappuccino would be great. Because I'm freezing to death, you see. Feeling slightly guilty about having him pay for me, but he just nodded as he stood up to head inside. Eventually, Alexander returned with my drink, handing the floral porcelain mug to me before taking the seat opposite mine once more. I took a sip. Yeah, thank you. I deserve that health pack, making me sit outside like a jerk. I took a sip, feeling instantly warmer. Before we get into it, he began, I wanted to thank you again for agreeing to come here today. I remain neutral. Ooh, pretty. But that looks like matcha. I didn't say matcha. I said a cappuccino. As I mentioned yesterday, he continued, I need your help with a problem that has arisen. You mentioned things have gotten worse recently. Alexander nodded slowly, lowering his voice. Yes, there has been a challenge to Ilona's leadership. And right now, Ilona is not sure who she can trust. She obviously trusts you. You can't be depressed if you leave the house, yeah? That's so fair. That's so fair. Oh. I really enjoy trying to work out the Harano logic here. It's really fun for me. A half smile appeared on his lips. Yes, I believe so. Do you think she should not? Oh, yeah, okay, here we go. I have to say this. Only a depressed person would say this. I don't think anyone should fully trust anyone. I said, looking away. I can't say that I don't agree with that. I looked up in surprise, wondering who exactly he was so cynical about. I asked him. Why the hell not? Ooh, you found a new clue for Alexander's investigation. You don't? I asked, confused. Why not? He paused. Let's just say that I was involved with someone and it did not end well. Ooh. His words had an air of finality, and I took that as a sign to change the topic. I crossed my arms. So Andre is the one challenging her leadership then? But why? That we are not yet entirely certain about, Alexander said as he grimly continued. The more worrying problem right now is that his following is increasing day by day. I wondered if this conflict was the source of the increase in spiritual turmoil in Warsaw. Alexander rubbed his forehead. If it was just a simple matter of a direct challenge to her leadership, Ilona would find some way to settle it. However, Andre has not done that. So? Hi, Harano. So? How is this any of my business? I said in a disinterested tone. It's good. The emotional whiplash. Andre's eye... Don't you mean Alexander? Don't you mean Alexander? Unless this is a trick. I believe that should say Alexander's eyes flashed with a sudden burst of anger, but his voice was calm and cool as he responded. She is your sept leader. Of course it is your business. A sept containing Garu that resent me. And for what? Having a depression that I can't control? Bitterness filled my words. There we go. Alexander looked at me, pausing before responding. I understand, and that is also part of the larger problem that Ilona and I want to solve. A problem I believe you can help us with. And now I'm really suspect of him. I sighed. Fine, so what exactly is happening then? Alexander's eyebrows furrowed together as he crossed his arms, leaning back in his chair. Well, what you saw in the cairn, for one, though that is a recent tactic. Originally, Andre's manipulations were more subtle, undermining her behind her back, carefully sowing the seeds of discontent. But now, Alexander shook his head, his expression troubled. Now he has become out of control. To be honest, I never really knew him well, although the Garu forums I'm in have mentioned him from time to time. What did they say? Alexander asked carefully as I thought back to what I had read. They used to be fairly positive, but recently the Garu there have been much more critical. I did not say anything about the other rumors I had read. Alexander looked me straight in the eyes. What you need to understand is that Andre was once an honored leader and warrior. He earned the respect of everyone he met. This new, out-of-control, antagonistic side, it's just not like him at all. Alexander shook his head as he briefly looked away, the porcelain coffee cup too still in his hand. What's more, Alexander continued for a moment, it's not just about challenging Ilona's leadership. He has become obsessed with the refugees coming into Poland. Found another clue. Goody. I recalled the events of yesterday as I responded dryly. I noticed. Alexander hesitated, his eyes appraising me. We also learned that he believes that the refugees are being influenced by the worm. That's insane. Yeah, 3 rage. I stood up abruptly from my chair as the people around us stared at me. I ignored them, fury flowing through me. We've been through a fucking war. All we want is an escape from that. Most of the refugees are even willing to take on the worst jobs he wouldn't deign to take. Then on top of that, he thinks we're working with the worm? Alexander ignored the passers-by, staring as he calmly responded. I agree with you, which is why I have asked you here to help prove him wrong. I felt the anger rush out of me as I sat back heavily in my seat. Why hasn't Ilona stopped him then? I asked. Alexander began to speak when another customer passed by our table. We waited till he had gone, then Alexander continued, his voice lowering slightly. First of all, because there is something wrong. The worm has been far more active than usual. And now with Emmerich's death, Andre has gained even more supporters who are looking for answers and solutions. He held up a hand as I sat up indignantly. No, Ilona and I do not believe the refugees had anything to do with Emmerich's demise, but he was investigating something to do with them, and many see a connection. That's ridiculous, I burst out at last. The worm's forces have always thrived on crises. It's not the fault of the victims, for fuck's sake. Exactly, which is why we are going to investigate the reason why Andre thinks the refugees are at fault. Is it a lie to garner support? Does he truly believe this? And if yes, why so? There are many questions we do not have the answers to. The answer is obvious! Glory! I snorted. Isn't the answer obvious? He's a white, rich Polish guy. They hate us. What more is there to get? Alexander looked like he was trying not to smile. Well, there is that. But you also know more about the refugee situation than anyone else. I believe you can provide us with understanding. So then what do we do next? I asked. A small gleam appeared in Alexander's blue eyes as I wondered if I had just set myself up. Glad you asked. I actually chose this spot because last night at Apocalypse, one of Andre's pack, Tsutsana, was fairly drunk and loudly proclaiming she had actually been harassed by a group of refugees near here, even claiming they attacked her with a knife. She told you this? I said in surprise as Alexander smiled a joyless smile. No, Tsutsana would not tell me that, but let's just say the information made its way to me. With that, Alexander set his mug down decisively, abruptly standing up as he beckoned me to follow. I followed immediately. Without a moment's hesitation, I joined him. I could feel a thread of excitement. Down to 3 again. I could feel a thread of excitement knitting its way through me, one I had not felt in a long time as I followed him out of the cafe. Okay. So I'm actually going to stop right here, right before we start doing our investigation with whatever it is, wherever it is that Alexander is going to take us, because I've been going for about 90 minutes and my voice is starting to go. But I am going to be coming back here tomorrow to keep playing Purgatory. I'm super excited. I have this very sneaking suspicion it's not going to take me as long as Book of Hungry Names, which I'm still not finished with to do. So I think this will just be a brief interlude before I get back to Book of Hungry Names, to the tale of Sierra, Gaia's deadliest weasel. But thank you so much, everyone, and I'll see you tomorrow.